Yes, this is an island surrounded by water, big water, ocean water. Trust me, I'm like a smart person.
I'm very consistent. I'm a very stable genius.
I had the best words. Tolerized. I know words.
Mike Pounds.
I hope they now go and take a look at the oranges of the investigation.
But there's no better word than stupid. Anonymous, really anonymous. I'm very highly educated.
One of the wettest we've ever seen from the standpoint of water.
I had the best words.
God bless the United States.
Around the nation, DYD Nation, Jeff Walter here with you. Welcome to the show. It's Friday, TGIF. Finally made it through this week. Another week, safe and sound. All of you, hopefully, that are watching have also made it through the week safely as well. So we've got an interesting show today. Yes, we're going to do coronavirus updates. Yes, we're going to talk about a reporter that was getting bullied. We've also got some regrets. That should be a fun one. We also are going to talk about Biden. So Biden's out with a new interview, and he says don't vote for him. Again, fun times. So we'll talk about that. All right. Like I said, it's going to be a fun show, an interesting show, as always. Nice little mix. Now, if you haven't already, please hit the like and share button. Very important that you share the stream with everyone you know, everywhere that you can, because, again, it helps us out greatly. All right. So, me having fun later today. I will be talking with Mike Figueredo, Humanist Report. That should be fun. I know I've been hyping that all week, but that's going to be a really interesting conversation. I think we're going to be having a lot of agreement on what's going wrong with the Democratic Party. So we'll talk about that. That should be a fun, and we'll just let the conversation go wherever it needs to go. It will not be live. Of course, it's pre-record. So we're going to, of course, have that drop for patrons on Saturday. And for everyone else on Sunday. So that is one good reason to become a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. Another way, of course, is to make us sustainable. We're doing a patron drive. We're trying to get to 400 by the end of the month, 400 patrons to help us become sustainable. And then, we'll continue to build on from there. And so I'm need your help. As always, to help keep this show going, to keep it healthy, and, of course, expanding. So if you want to help me out, channel memberships, patrons. By the way, channel memberships, those have been exploding. So thank you guys for signing up for that, too. And I'll thank some of you by giving you a shout out later on in the show. Okay. Anyway. So let's start out with, of course, the newest round of Trump sanity.
We have more cases than anybody in the world. But why? Because we do more testing. When you test, you have a case. When you test, you find something is wrong with people. If we didn't do any testing, we would have very few cases.
Hold on a second.
don't want to write that. It's common sense. So we test much more, many, many times.
I don't know why, but that pause, right, makes me think that it was over. So that was President Donald Trump finally explaining how testing works, or finally understanding how testing works. I mean, kind of. I mean, he's right to point out that we have more cases of coronavirus than the rest of the world, despite not being the most populous. And we're also not the most populist, as you can tell. And look, we have a lack of testing. We don't have widespread testing, and yet we still have about 1,450,000 known cases of coronavirus. Now, we've also had 86,000 known deaths from the virus as of Thursday night. And the reason I say known, of course, is because numerous experts and officials are saying we have vastly undercounted this because we don't have widespread testing. It appears that it hit our shores much earlier than originally suspected. So there were a lot of deaths that may have been wrongly attributed to other things than coronavirus. And so the other part of it is that, going back to the testing here, it's very difficult for regular people to get tested, even if they have symptoms. And so that's still going on around the country. We still don't have enough tests for regular people. Not only that, but don't forget that there are a lot of people out there that only get mild symptoms, so they don't get tested because they don't go to the hospital. And then, of course, they're not counted. And then you have asymptomatic carriers. The only people that are being reliably tested happen to be in the White House, which of course makes sense, but they're the only ones really that are getting reliably tested. Everybody else, I don't know, they just told us to go pound sand, kick dirt, pound sand, whatever you want to say. So now the White House, as I mentioned, currently tests all employees daily that could come in contact with Donald Trump. And of course, that's been going on for some time, but you've still had staffers that have come down. You had Katie Miller, Stephen Miller's wife, an unfortunate victim, coming down with coronavirus. Then you've got one of Donald Trump's, I believe, valets, numerous Secret Service officers coming down with coronavirus, testing positive. And so, they are getting tested, right? Now, Trump still maintained for a long time that we're testing the most people, we've got the most tests, we're doing so much better than the other countries. I mean, you heard that there, right? He was about to go into talking about South Korea and how we're doing more testing in South Korea because physically we've done more tests because we have a larger population, but per capita, we're actually not doing as many tests as the other countries have done. And so, no, we're not ready to open up the country. And that's the thing, right? In order to open up the country, what we need is aggressive testing and we need contact tracing. Those two things are the most important things if you want to open up the country. Because, again, if you have widespread testing, you know who's sick. Contact tracing allows them to tell anybody who's been in contact with them that they could be sick and to go into isolation. The more people that we can isolate that have the virus, the safer it is for other people to go back out and to slowly reopen business. I want to reopen the country, but we need those two things. And I don't know why this is so difficult for the people in charge to understand. But of course, there's a reason. There's always a political reason, right? Now, he looks at this and says, well, if we do more testing, we're going to find more cases. More cases make Donald Trump look bad. Donald Trump looked bad. If Donald Trump looks bad, Donald Trump doesn't win the election. Well, then we'll just do less testing because we'll have less cases if we do less testing. Problem solved. We fixed it. Like if I don't see it, it doesn't exist. Is Donald Trump lacking in object permanence? Is that the issue? Maybe it is. Like, I wonder if you like hide something behind your back, if Donald Trump no longer thinks it's there, no longer thinks it exists. Where did it go? Where did the dollar go? It went behind you. It's gone now. No, Donald, it's right here. It's right here. Oh my God, it's like magic. He came back. No, the guy's a moron. But he's also a sociopathic moron. And so I think this is, of course, a case of political expedience, right? Because, again, the less cases that there are publicly, ergo the less testing, the more he can say, look at how low our infection rate really is. And, of course, I believe Kushner had warned Trump against doing more widespread testing because of that very reason. So always, of course, it always comes down to Donald Trump winning, right? He doesn't care about the American people. He doesn't care about, people getting sick. He doesn't care about people that are dying. No, he wants to have low numbers so that he can say, look, we should open up the country, have the stock market go back up, which, by the way, the stock market has stabilized and is actually doing a lot better now. And so he can point to that and say, look at me. The economy is doing really, really well. Everybody's opened back up. We've beaten Corona. I'm the best president ever. When in reality, no, we haven't beaten Corona. In fact, we're not even through the first wave. And then, God forbid, there's a second wave. Not good. This is disastrous. Now, of course, there are on the other side people saying, hey, this is political. All you want to do is attack Donald Trump. No, all we want is actual leadership. We want leadership in a crisis. We want a president that takes us seriously. Had Donald Trump been taking the right steps and ordering, first ordering N95 masks, which he had the ability to do so, right? And not only that, but there were instructions on what to do in the case of a pandemic. All set up, waiting for Donald Trump. When he took over, that was the Obama playbook. He threw it out. No, we're not interested in that. No, that was the Obama plan. We're going to throw out the Obama plan, and then we have no plan. Absolutely no plan. They could have, manufactured millions of N95 masks as the Obama administration had laid out, right? Had set up. They didn't take this seriously. They didn't do the right steps. Had they done so, I'd give them credit. I'd be like, oh, he actually handled this competently, like an adult. Great, wonderful. The whole idea, and the reason I bring that up, right? The whole idea that we want a president to fail and more people to die is absurd. It is absurd. It's unhinged. It's likely projection, because I think they think like that. Like, oh yeah, no, we would totally sacrifice people if it meant we had an advantage. No, of course. The whole point, though, in criticizing Trump and his mistakes is that maybe, I don't know, somebody can learn from them and do better. I mean, at this point, it's very clear that he's not going to do better. He doesn't want to. He just wants to ignore this. Like he's over it. Like he's like, I'm sick of it. I'm going to go focus on other things. And call for the country, of course, to open up, which, of course, would be an unmitigated disaster without, again, those two things, aggressive testing and contact tracing. We can't do it. But the interesting thing about this is that he is kind of admitting, it's saying the quiet part out loud, that if we do less testing, we find less cases. Of course. Like, everybody knows that. But he's just like, hey, you know what? If we do more testing, we find more cases. No. By the way, testing doesn't cause more cases, as he says, right? Oh, you do more testing and it gets more cases. It doesn't cause the cases. No, you find more cases because it's math. It's common sense. You do more testing, and yes, you will find that more people are infected. Then you can actually do something about it. But again, he doesn't want to do that. Instead, he wants to do less testing, and you got to call it what it is. Grossly negligent, but completely on brand for Donald Trump. Disastrous. Okay. I'll have to go through and edit that later. Edit that out too. Okay, moving on to the next story.
Go home, you fake news. Go home.
You're destroying something in Long Island. You are the enemy of the people.
You are fake news.
You are the
We all
enemy.
know it. You are fake news.
So that video was shot by Kevin Vesey, as a local news reporter from Long Island, covering the anti-lockdown protests in New York. So in that, of course, you could obviously see people with, signs, and you got other people with Trump flags in other places, and mainly you hear them calling him fake news. Oh, you're fake news. You're liberal media. You're out here with an agenda. I mean, look, it's sad, really, right? Because while there are issues with, of course, corporate media, it's nowhere near liberal. No, it's establishment. And I talk about this all the time, how it's pro-centrist, pro-establishment media, and that's one of the big problems in it, right? But because of this, and because of other factors, there's a huge level of mistrust when it comes to actual facts. Not only do they not trust the news, these people on the right, they also despise it. But unlike us, instead of trying to make it better, these right-wingers, they say it's fake and they want to destroy it. And they're in favor of media, of course, that does confirmation bias. And so it gets to a level where it's dangerous. Now, thankfully, it wasn't dangerous, but could have gotten very dangerous, at least in one instance. Let me show you that.
We know about your liberal agenda. We know you want to keep your job. We get it. You're not getting advertiser dollars in right now.
You're not going to answer, so you're just going to go live.
Yes, I am getting a paycheck.
I'm very happy, but other people are not getting paychecks, and they're
That's why
not
we're
getting.
here.
You used to be a good channel at one time.
You allow people.
I don't know what happened to you.
Oh, you're a dick. You're a hack.
You're disgusting. You're the virus.
Can you please stay away from me, sir? You're not 6 feet away. You are not 6 feet away. Stay right there, sir. Stay right there.
Hey, I got hydroxychloroquine. I'll be fine, bro.
Unacceptable. Unacceptable. Dude, that man was literally endangering the reporter's life. He's following him around for quite some time. Oh, but it's okay. He's got hydroxychloroquine. Except that, no, that doesn't do anything. Studies have confirmed that hydroxychloroquine is actually more harmful than helpful if you have coronavirus. I mean, it's got no effect against coronavirus. I remember going back and saying, look, the jury's out on it. So far, they've been trying it for people in the hospital, and they've got, they're not sure of the results. Well, now we have 2 full studies that have come out and have confirmed that hydroxychloroquine doesn't work on coronavirus, right? And in some cases also causes cardiovascular problems. So this guy, and it's ironic, right? Because they're calling this guy fake news, right? They literally listen to fake news. That's Fox News, as well as the president, who's telling them dangerous falsehoods. Tells them one thing one day, tells them something else the other day. Now, he's not talking about hydroxychloroquine anymore, is he? No, but before he's like, try it. What do you have to lose? Well, some people could lose their lives and have lost their lives when it comes to that. So now here's the thing. The right wing, the conservatives in this country have constructed a very elaborate news ecosystem that the main purpose of is to get people to not believe in facts in news media. in order to prime them into believing in conservative propaganda, like, for example, trickle down. So now here's where you can criticize the news media, because their response to that right wing, conservative narrative is literally consolidating themselves into 5 companies who control everything you see and hear on the news. They've also drowned out independent progressive voices. They've been incredibly pro-war, big corporation, and then of course they call everything equal, right? They also, as some people point out, massively promoted Donald Trump during the primary as part of course, the Pied Piper strategy to try to elevate Trump because they thought he was too crazy to win against Hillary Clinton. Yeah. So there's that. That's literally the worst response. So now we have millions of people in this country that don't know what to believe. And so what they do is they jump right into confirmation bias. And that's why we've got conspiracies literally everywhere, and why it's so dangerous now that we have a pandemic that nobody trusts in our institutions. There's no doubt that our fourth estate has absolutely failed. And now, we're reaping the whirlwind of that, because you have people out there that don't believe in facts and won't listen to facts because of where they come from. And so a lot of it is the news media's fault, but the right wing, of course, shares a gigantic amount of the blame. And so, unfortunately, there seems to be no easy fix for this. And this is the situation that we find ourselves in. We have a nation that doesn't believe in facts anymore. And unfortunately, because of that, there are ignorant people who will die or spread the virus to others who will also die. And so I don't have a solution to this problem because it's a problem that is decades in the making. All right. Moving on here. A New York barber who defied his state's pandemic lockdown has been diagnosed with coronavirus because, of course, right? Now, NBC News is reporting that Ulster County Department of Health and Mental Health announced this week that a publicly unidentified barber in the city of Kingston had contracted coronavirus after weeks of illicitly cutting hair despite orders that he remain closed. Now, the department advised anyone who had received a haircut at the barbershop to immediately get tested for COVID-19. That, of course, will be somewhat difficult because we still don't have, in a lot of areas, widespread testing. So now Ulster County Health Commissioner Dr. Carol Smith said, learning that a barbershop has been operating illicitly for weeks with a COVID-19 positive employee is extremely disheartening. As much as we would all like to go out and get a professional haircut, this kind of direct contact has the potential to dramatically spread this virus throughout our community and beyond. And so, look, she's absolutely right about this. Now, I think that there are 2 types of people here. 2 types of anti-lockdown people, right? So now there's people that consume right-wing media and think, oh, it's not a big deal. This is overblown. It's fake news. COVID doesn't exist, or it's a 5G conspiracy, whatever, right? The president thinks it's fine. I got hydroxychloroquine. Everything is going to be great. Hashtag freedom. Okay, there's those people, right? So I make fun of those people. But there's also a second category of people in these anti-lockdown protests. And these are business owners, some of them are legitimately hurting. I think that this guy might be in part of that second category. Now, understand that part of the bailout program, right, that was the CARES Act, right? Part of it went to small businesses, not a very large part. In fact, the small business loan program was supposed to help these people weather the shutdown, right? But as we've seen, those funds were gone almost immediately. Gone. In fact, Washington Post comes out with a story earlier today that notes that over 100,000 small businesses have went out of business. They're closed forever, right? And yet, large publicly traded companies had received over $905 million that were meant for small business. Isn't that insane? You had these large corporations that didn't need that money dipping into that money. How many of those small businesses could have been saved had that money, that $905 million, almost $1 billion, go to their business? How many? And so that's the problem. So many small businesses were left out because big business went and scooped up that money. And then they went out of business. So now, that's not to add in, of course, the trillions of dollars in just corporate bailouts. But that's the problem. Our government, under the Republicans and under corporate Democrats, they prioritize big corporations and banks and used coronavirus to perform an upward transfer of wealth to the top 1%. These were the biggest robbery from the American taxpayer that I have ever seen in American history. Gigantic. I believe they intentionally gave very little to small businesses and workers in order to, of course, get them to go back to work as soon as possible. And guess what? This is a result. Now, this guy has coronavirus, and who knows how long he's been spreading it to others. That's unfortunate. And that's a situation that could have been avoided. Here's another situation that could have been avoided. Carl Mank. So now Carl Mank is a barber in Owasso, Michigan, right? So now he is right now a darling of the right wing. He's been on Fox and Friends. And he says, I'm not going to close down my business. No. I'm going to continue cutting hair in defiance of Governor Gretchen Whitmer's shutdown. Now, according to the New York Times, Mr. Mank says he initially closed his business, Carl Mank's barber and beauty shop, in March, but reopened in May as he grew increasingly concerned about bills piling up. He says he wears a mask and recommends it, but does not require it for his customers. I wonder who those customers are. I think we all know. So now, look, the state of Michigan is going after him aggressively. They suspended his business licenses. Here you have Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessel saying this in a statement on Wednesday. Mr. Mank's actions in violating Governor Whitmer's executive orders, as well as other health orders, put the public at risk for contracting COVID-19. Anytime you have a barber or other professional providing services to numerous citizens in close proximity to each other, and those citizens are then returning to their various residences, there is a risk of contracting and spreading the virus. It is paramount that we take action to protect the public and do our part to help save lives. So now, she's absolutely right. Of course she's right. I agree with her. But on the other hand, he's also right to be concerned about his bills, because right now we have almost no protections in place for these people, right? And so this is the problem. This is a situation that the federal government has created with their inaction, their inability. You can call it inability, but really they don't actually want to do this. They don't want to help the workers. They don't want to help the actual small businesses. And so that puts the position, of course, or puts people in the position of, hey, Len, look, I'd like to stay home and everything, but I got bills to pay. I got to work. I got to open up because nobody's helping me pay those bills. Like I can't afford to not do this. Right. And so you add into it a lot of the stay-at-home protesters who are angry because they've been temporarily inconvenienced. Those are, I think, the customers I was referring to earlier. And a lot of these people are not taking this seriously. They don't believe in the facts. They don't believe in the doctors and medical professionals that are warning against opening up too soon. And so here you have a willing customer base. You have a ton of demand. And so this guy's like, F it. I'm gonna go cut some hair. What's the worst that could happen? Well, as I mentioned earlier in the story, there was another barber that literally did get COVID-19. So these people are defying these orders. They're becoming folk heroes, and then they're getting sick. But they're providing the quote unquote proof that the governors of some of the states that have shut down to try to flatten the curve are being quote unquote tyrannical. Now, I hate to say it, man, but this guy's going to get sick. Even in the photo, look at the photo. He's not even wearing the mask correctly. What's that going to do? And again, the mask doesn't protect you from getting sick. It protects you from spreading it, or protects everyone else from you, because you could spread it. You might be an asymptomatic carrier. It's best when both people wear masks and do social distancing. That cuts down transmission quite a bit. But here's the thing: this guy is probably going to get sick, and at 77, he's most at risk. I don't like that. I don't like that fact. I feel for the guy, but that's unfortunately what's going to happen. And this is how the virus spreads, by the way. 1 part ignorance, 2 parts government inaction. I mean, right now we've got 36 million people out of work. That means nobody's got money for bills, right? We've got no freeze on rents and mortgages. That would help out a lot, actually, or any other kind of utility freeze. Unemployment benefits are taking sometimes weeks to get to people if you're even able to sign up. And that one $1,200 check, not enough. By the way, it was also massively means tested. And therefore, people who may be hurting now, well, they made more last year. And so, hey, oh, look, you're not eligible for it. Sad day for you. And those who did get it are likely to have already spent it on rent. They've got nothing left. You have food bank demand that's up by 40%. Look, all of this could have been solved by not giving trillions of dollars to corporations, but instead directing it towards small businesses. And, of course, you have to have a lot of rules to prevent these big corporations from coming in and scooping up that money to make sure that these small businesses actually get it. And a $2,000 a month UBI combined with rent and mortgage freezes. That's how we should do these things. And not only that, but aggressive testing and, of course, contact tracing. That's what we have to do. Instead, what we've done is create the very types of conditions that will lead to people being forced to go out, risk their lives, the lives of their family members, in order to try to make enough to survive. We have literally created the Hunger Games in this country. And unfortunately, it's not going to get any better, especially as, look, the states already open up too early. Coronavirus cases are already on the rise. We're going to see, we're not even done with the first wave, and it already looks like the second wave is about to crash on top of us. And yet, that Trump's done with it. He's like, over and done. No, we're not going to help anymore. Let's move on to Obamagate, whatever the hell that is. It's not going to get any better. No, as long as we have our criminal corporate government in charge. All right. Let's move on. Actually, no, I'm going to take a break. We're going to come back. We got some regrets from people who didn't take this seriously. So that's refreshing. We'll do that after the break. We'll also read some super chats. We've got a few. And thanks some patrons and some channel members as well. So stay right here. We'll be back. Round the Nation. We'll see you in a couple minutes. Welcome back to the show, Around the Nation right here, QAT Nation. Jeff Waldorf here with you. There's a lot of great comments here. Now, before I get to those, super chats. Elwell says, maybe if MSM hadn't promoted Trump by giving him massive amounts of free media, wouldn't be hearing the people scream fake news at reporters. I mean, that's part of it, for sure. But you can't forget that massive right-wing media bubble that has been really sowing so much distrust at the news. And of course, as you point out, a lot of fault to be held at the mainstream news as well. Certainly we haven't been shy at pointing out where mainstream news has failed. So another super chat from Star Trek says, it's from my mom. She has a lot of respect for you. Aw, appreciate that. Says I'm doing the right thing and agree 100%. Well, thank you, Sarge's mom. I really do appreciate that. That's wonderful, wonderful to hear. All right. So let's get some patrons here. Let's thank some of you guys and gals for supporting independent progressive media. Let's see. I'm looking up some new members here because look, we've been getting a lot of new members, which is great. We're at 385 now. So I think I've already thanked a couple of them here. Raven Surrett and Cooper Wickham. So Raven, Cooper, thank you for signing up. Channel members, let's see. We've got Helen A. Danielson, new member there. And then one of the older members, of course, is Goku Just Cyan Jank. That's hard to say. I'm trying to get it right, though. Just saying. I get it. Clever. Love you guys. And Kathy Harvey says, hope everybody has a safe weekend. A great weekend. Stay safe. Same to you, Kathy. Do appreciate that. All right. Some comments, too. You guys were pretty fired up about that Barber story, which I love. Tia points out, Tia Wheeler says, I can understand that bills are concerned, but the costs of whatever treatment you will have to get from the virus are much worse. I agree. And also, I mean, that kind of takes away from anybody else as well who needs that treatment. Like, it's pretty heartbreaking to hear the stories of older people giving up their ventilators for younger people, right, who also have to be on ventilators. It's pretty bad. And the whole thing is you want to avoid overloading the hospital so you don't have to make those choices. But Republicans are literally being pro-death panel because that's what that is, right? Where doctors now have to make the decision of, because their hospitals are so full, that who am I going to save? Am I going to save the younger guy? Well, that seems more obvious than the 76-year-old who, has a lot of underlying conditions. Well, we're going to give that 30-year-old the ventilator because he has a longer lifespan. I mean, so that's a literal death panel. I thought they were supposed to be against that. Weird. So great point, Tia. Eclectic Miscellanea says, I feel for him struggling financially, but he's risking his and his customers' lives. And so one of the reasons that I really wanted to bring that story and talk about that is the fact that it is a difficult position to be in. And this is what we're forced to be in, thanks to the Trump administration. And I'm glad that I could bring that kind of nuanced understanding into this, because too often you hear, even from people that, I normally listen to or respect, no, they're all idiots. They're all terrible people. None of them believe in facts, etc. No, I mean, some certainly that applies to, but also they're just regular people trying to make it. And they're not giving any options to do so. So I want to make sure to present that perspective because I think that matters. I think that matters a lot to try to get people to see, the nuance in this entire situation, which is a difficult situation for everybody other than at the top, who are just fine. Ravaging Wolverine talks about that a little bit and says, the Republicans left us regular people hanging. and did so intentionally. Absolutely. Anonymous says the barber is caught between a rock and a hard place. Again, 100%. And LL points out his customer's not wearing a mask to protect him when the barber is still wearing a mask tells you everything you need to know about how disposable service providers are to them. That's such a good point. I love it. Thank you, L. Look, I mean, you just go and look at some of the attacks against people who are considered essential, right? How we treated them pre-coronavirus and how we treat them today. You have people getting attacked at the gas stations and stores, essential employees for telling people, hey, you need to put on a mask to protect me, right? They flip out. Yesterday, I did the story. Man threw coffee on this poor woman, right? And then punched her in the face. There was another story that came out. Another man going into a gas station, punching another female employee in the face for, not wearing, for him not wearing a mask. And she asked him to. So it's horrible what we're putting these essential workers through. And they still get, crapped on by the system because they're not making any money. They're barely making, anything. They're not getting the hazard pay that they deserve for being, essential. And so, I mean, it's just, it does show how little we value labor in this society, even when we're presented with the undeniable fact that they are indeed essential. All right. Anyway, moving on. Let's get into the last couple of stories here real quick. A Florida man is having some pretty big regrets after blowing off concerns of the coronavirus as nothing more than hysteria. Now, in an interview with a local news station, WPTV, rideshare driver Brian Hitchens said that he initially had downplayed the threat of the coronavirus when it first hit. Because of that, like a lot of people who didn't take it seriously, he decided not to wear a mask or do any sort of social distancing. Although, of course, it is a little difficult when you're a rideshare provider to socially distance. And so now I want to show you these quotes. These are mind-blowing, right? Quote, I thought it was maybe the government trying something. And it was kind of like they threw it out there to kind of distract us. So, look, in that you get a couple of things, right? For one, anti-government sentiment and conspiracies, right? Like, I don't know, the government's up to something. And they're trying to distract me. Distract you from what? Like, what would the government try to distract you from? They literally released like the information that the Navy has been aware of UFOs, and nobody cared. Literally, it came out with the videos. I think it was last week or a couple of weeks ago, and they're like, "Hey, this stuff UFOs, right? Yes, we admit that we caught this. We have no idea what these are." The rest of the nation's like, "What? Oh, aliens? Who cares?" So what exactly is it distracting from? Really? I mean, they didn't just pull this virus out of their back pocket. No, it's not a distraction. It's mind-blowing, like I said. All right. So there's more. He said, I'd get up in the morning and pray and trust in God for his protection, and I'd just leave it at that. There were all these masks and gloves. I thought it looked like a hysteria. And I love that, right? I prayed for God to protect me. I kind of left it at that. Well, here's the thing. God already sent you something. They're called scientists. And the scientists were saying, hey, this is a thing that you need to worry about. And maybe you need to listen to them. And so, look, now he admits later on, after, of course, he got the virus, he and his wife, that he was wrong. Now, they both ended up in ICU, intensive care. His wife is currently on a ventilator still. if she survives, and I hope she does, they're both going to have lifelong consequences as a result of downplaying this virus. It is incredibly nasty. Look, new reports out attacking, how it attacks kidneys and diabetics. Young people in their 30s are getting blood clots and stroking out. There's so much about this virus that we don't know and don't understand, and about the ways that it attacks the human body. We're just scratching the surface of what we know. But that's why we have to take, the word of the experts. We need to listen to the experts who are studying this day in, day out. This virus, though, doesn't mess around, and we should be taking it seriously. And I'm not saying 100% isolate yourself and never do anything, right? No, I'm saying if you got to go out, yes, you should avoid going out as much as you can. But if you're going to go out, socially distance and wear a mask properly. That's all. I mean, that's what we asked for, right? And now that's what Hitchens is trying to tell people. Now, he wrote this in a Facebook post, quote, "This thing is nothing to be messed with. Please listen to the authorities and heed the advice of the experts. Looking back, I should have wore a mask in the beginning, but I didn't, and perhaps I'm paying the price for it now. But I know that if it was me that gave it to my wife, I know that she forgives me, and I know that God forgives me." Well, I mean, again, I hope she survives. I hope she recovers, and then we'll see if she forgives you. But look, the whole thing is we don't want people dying, right? We don't want any more death. We've had enough. 86,000 people, and it's going to continue. That's why we're trying so hard. That's why we're screaming from the rooftops, please take it seriously. Take this seriously. That's why we're also urging the federal government to do something more, to take it seriously, because it's not a joke. It's not a joke. This is only going to get worse if we don't do what's necessary. We need masks. We need to continue social distancing. People need to use hand sanitizer, right, in their public space, in public spaces. They need to do as much sheltering in place as they can, and of course the government needs to continue to support and actually support workers and small businesses while they're shut down, and they need to have a plan. Now, I know it sucks. I know. I look. I don't want to, socially distance anymore. I don't want to be locked in my house. I want to go out golf. I want to have some fun. I want to enjoy my life. But unfortunately, we can't do that. We've got to be an adult, and understand that it's not just about us. It's about everyone. It's about everyone else. And what you do, especially with this virus, affects everyone else. And understand that, when people die, you can't bring them back. And that's the thing. You can't bring them back by being like, oh my God, boy, what did I mess up? Gee, I'm really sorry. Well, it doesn't work like that. So for God's sakes, man, listen to the experts and do not do what this guy did. And look, take it from him. It's not worth it. Do the right thing. All right. One more here. Let's finally switch gears to some Biden news.
Well, I think they should vote their heart. And if they believe Tara Reade, they probably shouldn't vote for me. I wouldn't vote for me if I believed Tara Reade.
That was presumptive Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden saying, hey, if you believe Tara Reade, don't vote for me. Why? Why would you tell people not to vote for you? Okay, so now this happened on MSNBC's Lawrence O'Donnell, and it was a response to a question, of course, that a lot of women are having on the left, a lot of survivors. If you're a survivor of sexual assault, could you vote for somebody who has been credibly accused of sexual assault? Now, for me personally, I can't answer that question. I'm not a survivor, right? So I don't know. And that's really, up to the person who is voting. But now Biden, he's like, yeah, it is up to you. Don't vote. Don't vote for me. Vote for somebody else. So now he's going to go on and make a strong denial, of course, to try to probably save face from that. Let's listen.
Look at Tara Reid's story. It changes considerably. And so, but I don't want to question her motive. I don't want to question anything other than to say the truth matters. This is being vetted. It's been vetted. They went and people interviewed scores of my employees over my whole career. This is just totally, thoroughly, completely out of character. And the idea that in a public place, in a hallway, I would assault a woman. I mean, anyway, I promise you, it never happened. It should be vetted. She should be thoroughly looked at, and whether or not these happen, look at the story, follow the storyline, and determine whether there's any truth to it. And there is no truth to it, I promise you.
All right, so what we're going to see, right? And hopefully we do have a non-biased, nonpartisan investigation that does find out the truth. Now, that said, I've looked at her story, and I believe that there's a lot of corroborating evidence, and I do believe her. And so, look, some of that evidence, of course, is her mother calling into Larry King years and years ago, telling her family and friends and neighbors that it had happened, complaining to her superiors, that's Biden staffers, who, look, for some reason they can't recall this. Gee, I wonder why. Maybe it's because their jobs are on the line here. And then her getting removed after making those complaints. You've got interns recalling that she had been pulled from the job. And so here you have some evidence of retaliation. And there's more evidence, too, likely of a complaint. Now, she said she made a complaint. They said they can't find it. But if she did make one, it would be in the records of the University of Delaware. Fortunately, those records are sealed. So we can't get to them. So we can't literally look in to see if there is a formal complaint to your office about sexual assault, sexual harassment. And so aside from all of that, it's interesting that he's saying, don't vote for me. I mean, in a way, it is kind of refreshingly honest, but also it's not very smart politically when you need leftist voters. Those are the people who are more likely to believe Tara Reid. Now, I'm not talking about voters like those in the right wing, right, who are never going to vote for Biden, who are never going to vote for a Democrat. Maybe would have voted for Bernie, right? But I'm not talking about the people who suddenly pretend to care about women, but didn't when it came to Kavanaugh. So I hate the hypocrisy from both sides, right? And I've been consistent on believing women unless there's a good reason not to. And I haven't seen a reason not to in this case. I know there are people like Putin, right? Yet she was incredibly naive about Russia. Yes, she talked about that. That has nothing to do with this. Absolutely nothing to do with this. And so, look, as far as, she can't remember the exact date and time when it happened. Well, a lot of survivors can't recall the exact date and time of their assault as well. And a lot of people, don't come out, especially if that person is incredibly powerful. That's sometimes why it takes so long for people to come out. Not only that, but if they had respect for that person, which she did, she worked for him, literally, it got to be, it probably got to be a lot to process. I'm sure there were a lot of conflicting feelings in this. But look, again, Biden has a history of touching women, right? Uncomfortably touching women, especially on camera, which is, it doesn't mean it's proof positive that, of course, he sexually assaulted this woman, but it does show that he's more than happy to violate the personal space of women around him. And maybe, like, in his case, he's like, oh, no, what are you talking about? This is what we do. I don't mean any harm. Well, it is harmful. You can't just get into the personal space of women. You can't do that. All that said, I'm not sure if I can vote for Biden. Yes, I'm not the people that he's talking about, but I'm not sure I could vote for him. But I'm also not saying that I won't vote for him either, just to get Donald Trump out. So progressives, I mean, we're in an impossible situation. Your choice is vote for an alleged sexual predator or a worse sexual predator. I'm not going to ask these people to choose. I'm not going to ask anybody to choose. I mean, if I can't, how am I supposed to ask anybody else? So, I mean, that's the situation that we're in. And I guess it's probably a good thing that Biden's not asking you to choose either. At least that's the way that I'm taking it. All right. That's really it. That's all I've got for you guys today. That's all I got time for. I got to get ready, of course, for the interview with Humanist Report. So that's a lot of fun. I'll be doing that soon and posting that up on Saturday. That's for patrons only, patreon.com/TYTNation. You can sign up to become a patron and support independent progressive media. For non-patrons, of course, you will get that interview a day later. So you'll still be able to listen to it. It'll be posted up on YouTube channel and also on our iTunes, Spreaker, all that stuff. So fun times, right? It's going to be a great interview. So I really urge you guys to listen to that because that's going to be really good. So, all right, I'm going to go prepare for that. You guys, please stay safe, wash your hands, have a very safe and good weekend. And I hope to see you all back here on Monday. All right, guys. Thank you. Love you all. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, nation. See you guys later.
Please clap.
Mike Pounds.
Wait. You're getting nervous, man.
Oh, wow, I'm sorry. You're kicking me out the door. You're kicking me out the door.